So let's start off with one that happened yesterday, and that was Carl Nassib signing with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Vegas Raiders have made some big-time moves on their front seven. They've made some moves to really upgrade their linebacker position. Corey Littleton, Nick Kwiatkowski, both going to be awesome for the middle of their defense. Both great in coverage, both great athletes, and both very smart players. Massive upgrade at linebacker for the Raiders. But Carl Nassib adds a little bit of a different type of player up front, and that is a pass rusher. Nassib has had 12 and a half sacks over the past 2 seasons with the Tampa Bay Bucks. You may know him from his days on Hard Knocks with the Cleveland Browns. Nassib is a good player, and the thing I like about him is he's a little bit underrated in terms of an athlete. He's huge. He's like 6'7", around 265, 270, somewhere around there. And he's played in multiple schemes. So he's played in like a 4-3 front. He's played in a 3-4 front. He's played outside linebacker. He's played D-end. So he has experience in both schemes. For the Raiders, he's probably going to be more of a down lineman as opposed to a normal linebacker. That's what I would have to guess. Defensive end for the Raiders. And I think he's going to have an instant impact. I wouldn't even be surprised if he was their regular starter. If he was actually the one playing regular snaps ahead of some of the younger players here on the depth chart. But I think this is what the Raiders needed. They needed another player at the edge. They've put a lot of resources into this position. Not all of them have worked out so far, but they do have a very young position. Adding a guy that's a little bit older, not too old. I think he's 27. He's going on to be his 27, 28 years old. He's going to be a really good player for you. And the contract was not bad at all. I actually really like the contract. I like Nassib coming in. He was one of my underrated defensive players, specifically at defensive end. And the Raiders continue to make good moves on defense to upgrade that defense, a unit that hasn't been very good for more than a few seasons now. And they've desperately needed pass rushers ever since getting rid of Khalil Mack. They addressed it in last year's draft. Really, Crosby came out and he was shining last season. And they're hopeful that Carl Nassib can be another addition in that rotation for the Raiders getting after the quarterback. I think he's going to be actually a surprise and one of the best underrated signings of this free agency period. So Carl Nassib goes to the Raiders. Raiders fans, let me know what you think about this signing. I love it. If you can't tell, let me know what you think about Carl Nassib going to the Las Vegas Raiders. Mike Mayock is taking a chance on a former high draft pick. Eli Apple is coming into Las Vegas and their secondary with an opportunity to start straight up. The Raiders don't have much at the corner position, and they're taking a risk on a former first-round pick. Eli Apple started a lot of games for the Saints last year. PFF ranked him as the 61st best corner in football last year, gave him a middling grade. In my opinion, when I saw him play, he wasn't great. He definitely was not a starting caliber corner, in my opinion. Not a number 1, not a number 2. He might still be a pretty good depth guy, and really in a different scheme, he might be able to play better. But I don't know. This is an interesting signing. I think it's interesting because I actually predicted this to happen, and I don't understand how I predicted it to happen because it's so random. But really what I felt going back to it is I felt like this scheme in Oakland, or I should say Vegas, might be a little bit better for him. And it's a similar system to New Orleans, but it's not too similar to the point where like it's the same, but it's similar. It has the same basics to it. And I think when you look at it, Vegas is looking at Dallas, they're looking at the Saints, they're looking at those type of teams that run similar defenses to try and pick players off of them because they know their scheme fits and they can see what the strengths and the weaknesses are. And they're looking at, okay, we saw that he could do these things inside the system. Maybe we can utilize him in that way. And when you really look at the Raiders, they've been sorely lacking corner play. Looking at their depth chart in the secondary, it's interesting because they haven't really made that move for a number one corner, which I hope they would. Trayvon Mullen, they drafted in the second round. Daryl Worley is a free agent. Nick Nixon, they don't really have anything. Nevin Lawson, I mean, these guys are borderline NFLers or borderline rookie second-year players. Carl Joseph is gone. They brought in Jeff Heath. Jonathan Abram and LaMarcus Joyner is a very good safety duo, in my opinion. So Eli Apple right there, like on name recognition and playing time alone, considering he played the number 2 corner spot for the Saints for a large majority of last season, you would have to slot him in right now at this current moment as the Raiders' number 2 corner. And honestly, I don't think that's good enough. I just don't know if Eli Apple's made out to be a number 2 corner. Maybe they move him to the slot. Maybe it works in Vegas. I don't know. Again, PFF didn't rank him horribly. 61st. That's technically a number 2 corner in the league. But when I watched him play, he is a far too risky corner. Like, sometimes he'll get beat badly. Possibly in more of a zone scheme, he would be better because he played a lot of man in New Orleans and he played a lot of man with the Giants as well. He played a lot of snaps. He played 933 snaps last season, which was the second most for New Orleans. So, yeah, I don't really know how to fully feel about this because, yeah, it's a low risk, high reward scenario, but is the reward really high? Like, have we at this point seen enough from Eli Apple? Maybe I'm underrating him a little bit, but I'll give Mike Mayock the benefit of the doubt because he's done a good job, and he scouted this guy coming out of college. He obviously liked him. So I think really it's Mike Mayock's move. I think he's saying, I like this guy coming out of college. I think Gruden, you could utilize him well, and I think, he's better than what we have on the roster now. It's only 1 year, at least he signed to, and it's low risk, potentially high reward. Why not? Take an opportunity, take a chance. And I shouldn't blame them because I predicted the move to happen. And I thought they would take a chance on a guy just like Eli Apple, if not Eli Apple in a similar mold, a former high draft pick or a guy that Mike Mayock liked coming out of the draft and could potentially play as a starter for them. And that's exactly what they got. But I just don't know if Eli Apple is a legitimate actual number 2 corner. I just don't know. But that's really where I stand on this move. So let me know what you think of the move. Eli Apple to the Las Vegas Raiders.